Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm sure my power's off. Alrighty. I have lots to share with you today. And so I'm not sure whether to apologize in advance for any bunny trails. Just know that they may happen. A bunny trail may happen at any time without announcement and without any previous alarm. What I want to talk to you today about, it's Halloween week. And so there's all kinds of talk and speculation about spiritual stuff, about spirits and stuff. And I want you to be aware. I want you to know what's going on. That's not where I want to start. Let me back up a minute. Let me just connect here for a second. Because wherever you are is right where you need to be. And you're here because this is the right place for you to be at this moment in time. Or you're tuned in because this is important for you. This is significant for you. There's a lot of information, and if I just get through some of the little bookmarks that I have set out for us, it's going to be a lot. So they're more for me than they are for you. But there's some significant things that are important for you to know. First thing I want us to discuss is the fact that God is a spirit. And that's why here at the Divine Fellowship, because some people have a problem with the word God, because they've been beaten to death with the word God. They've been beaten to death with supposedly the word of God. That if we use the word spirit, it's interchangeable for all it is, higher power, whatever that is for you. Because the good book says God is spirit. So what's a spirit? What is a spirit? A spirit. When Jesus died and came back, was resurrected, and he appeared in their midst when they were having, the apostles were in an upper room and they were having their little discussion. And so in Luke 24th chapter, and while they were talking about these things, they were talking about his resurrection, he himself stood in their midst. And while they were startled and frightened and thought they were seeing a spirit. And he said to them, "Why are you troubled, and why do doubts arise in your heart? See my hands, my feet, it is I myself. Touch me and see. For a spirit does not have flesh and bones as you see that I have." So a spirit doesn't have flesh and bones. And here's where it gets tricky, people. Because in Romans, it tells us, or Corinthians, 1 Corinthians, that there in 1 Corinthians 15, verse 40, there are also heavenly bodies and earthly bodies, but the glory of the heavenly is one, and the glory of the earthly is another. Now that whole chapter is talking about physical form and spiritual form, and how this physical form perishes, and when we get to heaven, a new spiritual body is gifted to us. So when we are here in this physical form is the mass manifestation, the physical aspect of the spiritual being that we are. This houses us, carries us. And when this physical form dies, that which is spiritual lives on. And when it crosses over, it's given a heavenly body. Okay? So that opens this whole realm of ghosts, which are disembodied spirits. So they haven't crossed over, so they don't have a spiritual body yet, but they don't have a physical form anymore. So why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because I get calls all the time from people who are distressed because they see loved ones and they're freaked out. I don't want you to get freaked out. Okay? Seeing loved ones is a beautiful, wonderful thing. And of course, the one passage I didn't mark just occurred to me that might be important for you to know is in Mark. I believe it's in chapter 16. When Jesus perished, when Jesus died on the cross, the veil that separated the Holy of Holies from the holy place was torn from the top to the bottom. Now, energetically, the significance of that is if it's torn from the top to the bottom, it's from heaven being manifested in the physical realm. As that happened, that opened this veil or this curtain was to separate the holy place, which the men could go into. Women stayed in the courtyard. Men went in the holy place, and only the priests could enter the Holy of Holies. When that veil was torn, that meant the Holy of Holies is open to all of us. There are no barriers anymore. And the dead arose and appeared to the saints in the city of Jerusalem. There's no condemnation over that. It's not saying, oh, only the evil people got to see these things. No, the saints received visitation from their loved ones. So when you see a visitation from your loved ones, it's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing. Just because you've never experienced it before and it's a little startling doesn't make it bad. Doesn't make it evil. I want you to be aware of that because you may experience that. First time I saw something that was from the other side, freaked me out. I didn't even believe in ghosts. And here I had something show up and it was like, well, there goes my paradigm shifting right out of the universe. I get to look at this a new way now, don't I? Now what am I supposed to do with that information? So you may have an experience. And that experience, I don't want you to be traumatized by that. I want you to be aware because it's a beautiful, wonderful thing. Now, when it gets to be creepy, is when disembodied things kind of will catch our attention. And here's what happens with that. When we pass, it is the natural order of things for us to move into the light, cross over into the light. Because we are light, we are love. Let's look at that. Let me give you a couple of really quick things real fast. You don't have to know this stuff, just be with this, okay? 1 John 4:8. God is love. 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. God is love. Then I want to go to James. Where are you? I've lost you. There you are. Every good thing, James chapter 1, verse 17, every good thing bestowed and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow of shifting. He's all light all the time. God is love. God is light. Anything from love and light is going to be loving and supportive and helpful for you. Got that? Okay. Our natural state of being is love and light. If there's a crisis, you will see people of all walks of life helping each other. Humanity steps into its highest and best expression when there's need, when there's sorrow or there's pain. You look at the tsunami or an earthquake, and anybody is helping anybody. There's no judgment, there's no walls, there's no barriers. It's just the kind-heartedness of humanity. Then there's the other side of humanity, which gets all tangled up in all about me. It's all about what I want. I want you to like me, so I'm going to do whatever I think you need me to do so that you'll like me. It's me fixing you, controlling you, taking away your choices, all those things that are not of love and light, they happen because we fall into a deeper state of being that is run by our brain and our feelings rather than our spirit. When the spirit takes over, it's all compassion. We don't worry about our own stuff. We just share and we're helpful. Does that make sense? So, when a being passes, our natural state of being is this higher level of awareness. There's this state of love and compassion and enlightenment that we naturally have. So we naturally have the ability to just cross right on over. Sometimes people get caught up in that other aspect of humanity and they get stuck. They get stuck because either somebody's told them they're not good enough, God can't possibly love them, or they believe the lie that they've done something that is unlovable. Maybe they have done something that's unlovable, but that doesn't make them unlovable. So the natural state of being is disrupted, and they don't cross over right away. And sometimes these beings float around. They don't have a physical form anymore, and they don't have a spiritual body anymore. So they really are just the sum total of their emotional state of being. Okay? Some of them are angry. Some of them are sad. Some of them are bewildered and confused. And when we experience those, they can be a little disheartening and discombobulating. You can feel a little disconcerted by that. When we're connected into that higher light state of being, they have no power over us. None. When we get locked in fear and sorrow and all that other stuff, then they can influence us. So our task is to stay connected. Now here's the deal. Most of us, I don't know, maybe you're not like me at all. Maybe you are. But we think ourselves into trying to connect with God. That's not going to work because the thinking part of us always gets caught up in judgment. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, always, gotta, have to, always, never, and must, all that crap. Shoulda, coulda, woulda, always. I'm not getting that straight. See, I'm still thinking through crud. I could sing bass in that last song. Did you know that? It was really fun back then. Well, let's go down to the river to pray. Anyway. So I'm still thinking through crud, so forgive me for that. So where was I? I lost myself. I know, but where was I before the bunny trail? What? They can influence us. All right. And I want to talk to you about this divine connection. We can't think our way there. I hear this all the time. People say, well, I just can't feel a connection with God. Your feelings don't get you there. Your thinking doesn't get you there. That connection is always there. If you're not thinking it, if you can't perceive it, it's because we've disconnected from our own spiritual self. So I want to do today is I want to get us a place where we can reconnect to that spiritual self and reconnect to that spiritual connection that's always there. Because here's what happens. I get sick, or I have an ongoing illness. And I think, oh, there's pain in my body, God doesn't love me. That's a lie. Or God must be punishing me for something because I don't feel well. That's a lie. I'm taking the receptor. It's like a phone receptor. You charge a phone, you plug it in. I'm taking that receptor and I'm plugging it into my physical body going, it doesn't work. I can't feel God's presence. I'm going to be bruised there tomorrow. We're trying. We're just using the wrong tool to get there. Make sense? Or we try to analyze God. Oh, for heaven's sakes, people, I do that all the time. Do you do that? We give God attributes that humans are ashamed of. You know? Instead of applying that higher energy of humanity when there's a problem, humans come together and we help each other and we uplift each other. It's awesome. And I know you've seen it. I know you've experienced it. I know you've been there. I know you've done that. I know you've been on the receiving end of that, and I know you've been on the giving end of that. If there's a crisis, humans are there to help each other, and we do. It's wonderful. And we forget that that's the energy of divine nature, love and light. So we assign God all these other characteristics that we don't even like to admit that we have. Judgment, vengeance. Let me tell you about vengeance a bit. Because, here's the deal. In the Old Testament, people were just becoming civilized. Okay, so they needed the Old Testament like you talk to a 2-year-old. No, don't do that. Because as a civilization, up until that point, it was, if I want it, I'm going to take it. Might makes right. I'm stronger than you, I get it. So God is trying to teach people, Spirit is trying to teach people, that doesn't work in a society. You're becoming a society. And socially, we need to work together. So, thou shalt not steal. There's a reason for that. So then the New Testament comes along, and the New Testament is about talking to a teenager. Okay, your curfew's midnight. If you're home after midnight, here's the consequences. Okay, so there's a consequence in the New Testament. Now, if you read beyond that, if you can get past that, once we're not teenagers anymore and we're in our own home, I know I feel like crud if I'm not home in bed by midnight. I don't need some outside force telling me to get myself home and get in bed because I know I'm going to feel like crud. So I have enough self-authority that I don't need some external force telling me what to do. I can just do the right thing. And I do the right thing for myself and for others, to uplift others. Right? So if we can read the New Testament beyond the do this or here's the consequence, then we move past that teenage experience of spirituality and move into this greater, higher perspective. Make sense? So, back to vengeance. Vengeance was a concept that the people that were just becoming civilized didn't really get the concept of what comes around goes around. The law of karma. They didn't get that. So God had to mete out judgment because they couldn't understand the concept that if I am mean to you, something mean is going to happen to me. What comes around goes around. Make sense? And God had to take them or put them into a place of awareness where they could shift out of that and let go of that need. I've got to punish you because something happened to me. I got to have retribution to you. Okay? So rather than being able to conceptualize, it all sorts itself out. And people applied this vengeance energy to God. Love and light. Where there's love and light, there's boundaries. Where there's love, if I step off this, I'm gonna fall. If I'm not careful, if I just walk right off here, gravity takes over. All right? So if I do ill to someone else, the law of give and receive comes back to me. That's just a natural law. It's not that God is punishing me. It's just that's how it is. That makes sense? Okay, so vengeance is a thing that we apply to love and light when we don't know any better. It's not vengeance that we have consequences in our life. That's not a vengeance thing. Make sense? But I guarantee you, when people are really hateful and hurtful, it comes back on them. But if I try to mete out judgment, and I try to get out vengeance, you know what? Their vengeance goes away. Their karmic cycle is ended because I've taken it over. That's why it's like we got to let that vengeance thing go. It's rampant in our politics today. Let it go. Let's do something different. Let's pull ourselves out of the mire and do something of this love and light that we all have the capacity for. We all have the capacity for. So when we're in that state of love and light, we get this divine connection that we can actually feel and experience, that is palpable and is powerful and can shield and guide and direct and protect us. How wonderful is that? And somebody's ringing. Hello? Everybody's got to check their person. So what do I want you to know about that? What I want you to know about that is I don't want you to be fearful of disembodied things that haven't found their way to the light yet. Okay? Don't be afraid of that. Because they have less power than you. You have power. And you have access to a greater power than that. If we turn the lights on in this room, there's no darkness. The darkness has to go away. It has to. There's no place for it. Light fills up the space. There's no room for it. So if we're connected, we're turned on, there's no room for darkness to hurt us at all. There's no way. That doesn't mean we don't have struggling things happen to us, difficult things happen to us, but it's all part of the plan. It's all part of the process. Bring that light in, and powerful, wonderful, amazing things happen. So I want to walk you on a guided meditation.